Clay Marston lived alone for years after losing his Apache wife. One day, 5 Apache women arrived at his ranch, escaping danger from their settlement. They revealed they were kin to his wife and had come to help him heal his loneliness. They restored his ranch, revived his spirit, and protected him when armed men came looking for them. The land itself seemed to defend them. The women stayed as his new family. Before Clay died peacefully, they gifted him a pot with his wife's design, and later sang him gently into the next world. The wind had a way of speaking out on the high desert, and old Clay Marston had grown used to its lonely voice. For nearly 20 years he lived alone on his ranch outside of Sierra Blanca, where the grass grew in thin patches and the mesquite scratched at the sky like crooked fingers. His closest neighbors were coyotes, his only visitors the occasional delivery driver who left his supplies by the gate and drove off with barely a wave. Clay didn't mind. He had spent most of his life breaking horses, fixing fences, and keeping to himself. After his wife died and his son moved north to work in construction, the silence had settled in like a companion, a heavy, constant, dependable. But even silence can become too weighty. In the last few years, Clay had begun talking to it, answering its questions, sharing his meals with it. His joints ached and his vision blurred, and there were days he forgot what year it was until he looked at a calendar pinned crookedly on his cabin wall. But he still managed. He fed his 2 old horses, checked the water tank, and lived on beans, coffee, and stubbornness. It was in the middle of August, a heat shimmering off the ground like ghosts rising, that he first noticed the signs something was different. His horses, usually calm, stood clustered by the far fence line, ears pricked. His cattle, few as they were, had drifted north toward the canyon rather than gather at their usual watering hole. And he felt it too, a hum in the land, like footsteps he couldn't hear but somehow sensed. That evening, as he sat on his porch sipping lukewarm coffee, he spotted dust rising on the horizon. At first he assumed it was a truck, maybe his son finally coming to visit, though he doubted that. But the dust cloud moved strangely, too smooth for a vehicle, too low for a storm. Then he saw them. 5 figures advanced across the plain, steady and deliberate. It wasn't until they were within 100 yards that Clay realized they were Apache women, judging by their long dark braids and the woven sashes at their waists. They walked in single file, as if following a trail only they could see. Each carried a small pack. Their expressions were unreadable. Clay stood slowly, gripping the porch rail for balance. He hadn't spoken to more than one person at a time in years, let alone 5 strangers. They approached the gate and halted. The eldest among them, a wiry woman with silver streaks in her hair and a face lined like the desert hills, stepped forward. "You are Clay Marston," she said. It wasn't a question. Clay swallowed. "That's right. Can a broken bar help you, ladies?" The woman nodded once. "We come with purpose." Not exactly a comforting reply. Clay cleared his throat. "And what purpose might that be?" "To stay." Clay blinked at her, wondering if the heat had finally fried his brain. "Stay? Here? Why would you want to stay here? There's nothing out this way but dust and bones." Another woman, younger, with sharp eyes and a long scar down one arm, stepped forward. "We know this land. Our people walked it before your ranch or your fences existed." She paused. "And now, we return." Clay tried to process this. "Mom, I don't mind guests, but this is private land." The elder woman tilted her head. "Is any land truly private? Or is it only borrowed until the next wind comes?" Clay opened his mouth, closed it, and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He had no idea how to argue philosophy with a group of determined Apache women. "Look," he said finally, "I'm an old man living alone. I don't have much to offer, And I don't know what brought you here, but maybe we ought to talk about this. The elder nodded. We will talk. But first, water. Clay, raised to be decent if nothing else, gestured toward the house. I've got a well. You're welcome to whatever you need. They entered in single file, quiet as dusk. Clay filled metal cups at the sink. They drank without haste, looking around his modest cabin. He felt strangely self-conscious about the clutter, coffee cans repurposed as nail jars, stacks of old newspapers he'd never thrown away, a blanket his wife had knitted before she passed. The elder set down her cup. We will help you. Clay blinked. Help me with what? With your land. With your home. With your loneliness. The words hit harder than he expected. I never said I was lonely. You didn't need to, the elder replied. Clay glanced at their faces, calm, steady, as if they had already weighed and decided everything. A prickling unease crawled up his spine. Why me? Why this ranch? The women exchanged a glance. The younger one with the scar spoke. We come from Sheniga settlement. It is no longer safe. Outsiders want the land, push our people away. Some leave. Some stay. Some fight. We a broken bar choose another path for now. And that path leads here? Clay asked. It does, the elder said. For reasons we will share in time. Clay didn't know what to say. His ranch barely supported him and 2 horses. Bringing in 5 more people seemed impossible. But there was something about their presence here solid, unwavering, that prevented him from refusing. They stayed that night, setting up small bedrolls outside under the stars despite Clay offering the cabin floor. The next morning, he woke to the smell of frying bread and roasted peppers. One of the women, a slight, quiet, with nimble hands, had taken to his kitchen like she'd lived there for years. Another was already fixing the broken hinge on his barn door. Another hauled water from the well with the efficiency of someone half her size. The younger scarred woman stood watch on a ridge, scanning the horizon as if expecting danger. Only the elder remained still, seated on a flat stone near the porch, eyes closed as if listening to the earth breathe. Clay approached her hesitantly. You all planning on staying? Yes, she said calmly. For how long? For as long as needed. He scratched his chin. Well, a broken bar, suppose I can't stop you. But I still don't understand why me. The elder opened her eyes. Your wife was Apache. Clay froze. How do you question mark? We know her family. They feel your grief despite the years. They feel your son's distance. You have ties to us, even if you do not see them. Clay felt something squeeze in his chest. His wife, Lena, had rarely spoken of the old ways, respecting her people's privacy. She had grown up near Fort Apache before leaving to marry him. Her family had visited once, long ago, but he hadn't seen them since she died. Guilt washed over him. He had meant to stay in touch but couldn't bear the reminders. You carry her sadness, the elder continued. And it weighs you down. We are here to balance it. Clay didn't know whether to cry or curse. Instead, he simply nodded and walked away, pretending to check the water trough. Days passed. The women integrated themselves into ranch life with startling ease. They fixed his fences, patched the leak in his roof, trimmed the mesquite back from the path. They cooked meals far better than anything he had managed alone. They brought back herbs and roots from the canyon, sharing teas that eased the ache in his bones. By the second week, Clay found himself waking with a clarity he hadn't felt in years. He also found himself asking questions attentive at first. What exactly happened at Sheniga? The scarred woman responded as she sharpened a knife. Developers. They want resort land. Our settlement lies in the way. They pressure. They threaten. Some houses burned in the night. Some left. Some stayed to fight. We came here to regroup. Why choose me? Clay asked again. This time she gave a different answer. Because we needed a place where the land still listens. The phrase made no sense, yet somehow it felt true. One evening, Clay went out to gather wood. As he returned, he overheard the women speaking in Apache around the fire. Though he could only understand a few words Lena had once taught him, he recognized her name among them. His heart tightened. When he stepped into the firelight, they fell silent. "You can speak freely," he said quietly. "She was your kin?" The elder nodded. "She was cousin to us by marriage. She walked with a heavy heart even before she left home. But she loved you." Clay swallowed. "I loved her too. Still do." "We know," the elder said gently. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames. "I didn't know how to keep contact with her people after she died. I didn't want to broken bar reopen the wound. Wounds never close when left alone," the elder said. "They must be tended." "Is that why you're here? To tend my wounds? And for you to tend ours?" Clay didn't know what that meant, but he nodded. As weeks turned into months, the ranch changed. What had once been a place of decay came alive. The women planted small gardens in sheltered spots behind the barn. They gathered clay near the riverbed and crafted pots. They taught him how to grind corn with a stone, how to steep sage to clear the mind, how to sit in silence without feeling alone. They sang at dusk low, mournful songs that carried across the desert like prayers. Slowly, Clay began to smile again. His back still hurt, his joints still creaked, but his spirit felt lighter. He also noticed that the scarred woman whose name he eventually learned was Nalina kept close watch on the horizon. One evening he asked, "Still expecting trouble?" Her jaw tightened. Trouble does not forget so easily. And indeed, trouble came. It arrived in the form of 2 trucks rumbling across the plain, sending up dust clouds like angry spirits. Clay and the women gathered by the porch. Nalan stood ahead of them, shoulders squared. The trucks screeched to a halt. 3 men stepped out, hard-eyed and armed. One of them, wearing a white cowboy hat too clean to belong to a real rancher, spat in the dirt. "Heard some of you Apache folk were hiding out here," he said. "Figured we'd come collect what belongs back in Shenaga." Clay stepped forward before he could stop himself. "This is my land. They're my guests." The man sneered. "Old man, you don't know what mess you're stepping into." Nalan spoke. "We will not return." The man tilted his head. "You will if you know what's good for you." The elder walked forward, calm as the evening sky. "This land remembers us. And it will defend us." The men laughed until the wind rose suddenly, fierce and sharp, swirling dust into their eyes. The horses in their trailers screamed and reared. The ground trembled, not enough to knock anyone down, but enough to unsettle the bravado right out of those men. Clay didn't understand what was happening, but he felt it, the land pulsing, alive beneath his boots. The men scrambled back into their trucks. One shouted, "This ain't over." But they drove off, unable to start trouble while the earth itself pushed against them. When the dust settled, Clay turned to the elder. "What a broken bar was that?" "The land listens," she said simply. "And sometimes, it answers." Life settled again, calmer now, though watchful. Winter arrived gently. Clay found comfort in the warm meals, the shared stories, the soft drumbeats that echoed through the cabin on cold nights. The women became part of the ranch, part of his days, part of the silence that no longer felt like a burden. One night, sitting by the fire with Nalan, he asked, "Will you leave when Shenaga is safe again?" Nalan considered. Some may stay. What do you wish?" Clay looked across the ranch at the glowing windows, the horses resting in the corral, the stars scattering across the sky like spilled salt. "I think I wish a broken bar that you stay. All of you." Nalan's expression softened. "Then perhaps we will." Spring came early. The garden flourished. Clay's health improved. He wrote letters to his son for the first time in years, uncertain if he'd respond but feeling ready to try. One evening, the elder approached him with a bundle wrapped in cloth. "This is for you." Clay unfolded it. Inside was a beautifully crafted clay pot painted with mountains and clouds. The pattern was familiar. His breath caught. "This was a broken bar, Lena's design," he whispered. "Yes," the elder said. "We made it from what she taught us. From what you kept alive without knowing." Clay felt tears sting his eyes. "You are not alone, Clay Marston," she said. "Not anymore." And he wasn't. The ranch was no longer a place of silence but of voices, laughter, work, memory, and renewal. 5 Apache women had arrived one hot August day with purpose and mystery, and they stayed not as guests but as guardians, companions, and family. Clay lived the rest of his years surrounded by their presence, by the land that listened, and by the legacy of a woman he had loved and lost but whose spirit returned in ways he never expected.